Welcome to Take Off, a Points and Miles podcast by 10X Travel. I'm your host, Bryce Conway. Today, I am flying with my co-pilot, Travis. We're going to talk about all things Points and Miles, awards, and superlatives for the year, which is one of my most fun episodes to record of. We've been doing this in podcasting long enough that we can say that now. We've been around for a bit. This is a lot of fun.
It's been like a crazy ride, for those who don't know, the origin of the podcast was people had been asking for an audio version of the course for a long time. And the idea of us, or really, we dismissed it for a long time because Bryce was like, I don't know how I feel about just sitting there reading the course to people. And somehow the idea of let's just try it in a podcast format. And worst case, we've got the audio version, which is episodes 1 through 6 if you're wanting that refresher. But best case, it works. People like it and we keep doing it. And here we are 2 episodes later.
And over 500,000 downloads.
Yeah. So obviously, y'all liked it. We love doing it. So it's the highlights of my day whenever I know that it's a recording day.
I feel like the succinct and unfun version of that story is probably someone approaching us and be like, Bryce, Travis, you just get to talk a lot and record it and we'll watch it. It's like, sign me up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I distinctly remember when this was pitched, the idea of sitting in a recording sound booth and reading Chapter 2, the differences between points and miles. I'm Bryce Conway. Sounded as appealing as eating nothing but beans every meal for an entire week. So I'm glad that we decided to go this way.
I don't know, because I'm going to give an early preview that my new award is what was the food of the year, and I'm going to give it to dense bean salad this year.
I'm going to have to hear. I don't even know what that is. Dense?
It's
thick?
It's just salads that are bean based, but with different herbs and spices and dressings. It was a good trend, some healthy eating that is also very flavorful.
Journeys we didn't think we'd be on. Here we are. Dense bean salad.
Dense bean salad.
Talking all about it. But anyway, speaking of that course, the course has gotten a massive refresh. Went through, edited a ton of it, actually cut it down to be shorter. It's more succinct, to the point, easier to learn, and we moved it into My 10X, our free web tool that allows you to manage all of your points, cards, miles in one single place. So now there's just one single online tool that will help you learn, optimize, and automate your points and miles. It is our own. It's called My 10X. You should definitely sign up today. The link is in the show notes, or keep it simple and go to my.10xtravel.com. Puts the entire points and miles game on easy mode, and coming soon, maybe, dense bean salad recipes.
Ooh,
there we go.
That got Anderson's attention.
He sat right up. And for those of you who are on the audio version, Anderson would be Travis's dog, who's currently taking a nap on the bed right behind him here. These episodes are always a little bit more fun if you watch on YouTube. You can actually see us here in person talking. But for audio only, we get it as well. If you're at the gym, hope you have a wonderful workout right now. If you're driving, make sure to buckle your seatbelt, drive safely, keep nice distance between you and the others on the road, and sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of Takeoff, a Points and Miles podcast by 10X Travel. We're going to be going through superlatives and awards for the year. And I guess one more quick shout out. If you're sitting there on your phone, maybe you're working out and you're on a bit of a break, you have the ability to do this safely, kindly take out your phone, leave us a review on your podcast platform of choice. The reason why this fun little was going to be an audio course, become podcast, became over 500,000 listeners, experiment works is because y'all are so kind to rate us and tell your friends about it. We appreciate if you continue to do that so we can continue to help you as best that we can. In today's episode, we decided it'd be fun to give out some Points and Miles awards of our own. These are decided by us, the notoriously fair and balanced 10X Travel team, for the 2024 year up until now. We're going to talk about various products, loyalty programs, destinations, and more based on our experiences from the past year. And of course, we want to hear from you as well. After the episode, make sure to tell us your own winners or your own superlatives or anything you'd like. You can do that in our Facebook group, in the podcast episode post that we put up, or in the comments on YouTube, or tell a friend. We are just very curious to hear what you think as well. This one is a particularly fun one because it does feel like we're looking back in a way, we're looking at some of the highlights and such. But before we dive in, I do want to ask one quick icebreaking question of you, Travis. Speaking of superlatives, did you win any superlative awards at any point in your life? And if so, do you remember what they were?
I did actually. It took me a second to think through it. And I was on the speech and debate team in high school. And one year I won the award for most likely to win an argument with a toaster.
Is that a good thing? I'm curious. Like, can you lose an argument with the toaster?
I mean, I was really proud of it, so I hope it was a good thing. But if you can lose an argument to a toaster, I wouldn't know because I'm just there to win the arguments with the toaster.
And when this episode leans into more of the kind of Jerry Springer type approach, it's like, you know what? Funny you say that. Toaster, come on out. Let's do it. We're going to do this right now. That's very interesting. I myself won most likely to become a Points and Miles podcaster in 2000.
Interesting.
Yeah, wild, right?
Wow.
Podcast winner thing, but funny how that works. I'm joking.
Man, I'd stick a flag for that one.
I mean, it turned out, or it panned, as the kids say these days. I did actually win most helpful in high school, and I have no idea why. Still don't know to this day, but glad it was helpful. Maybe there are some correlations to podcasting.
Yeah, I don't actually know if my high school did those like Superlative Awards. I just know that our debate team did.
There we go. Well, they're definitely on the way out, at least when I was in high school. More years ago than I care to do math on. But anyway, we're going to talk about superlatives today, as it relates to points, miles, travel, everything that kind of touches that. Let's just go ahead and dive right in if you're game for it, Travis. Let's
do it. I'm doing a little drum roll. I don't know if people can hear it.
Anderson can behind you. He sat up. I'm curious to get your thoughts on this one as well, Anderson. But we're gonna start out with the best airline loyalty program of 2024. This is looking at user friendliness, redemption options, perks. I guess any way that you want to interpret this, most likely, ability to beat a toaster in a debate can be a factor here. But Travis, why don't you kick us off? Tell us who won your best airline loyalty program for 2024.
Yep, I'm looking forward to being flamed in the comments for this one, but it should come as no surprise that for me, the best airline loyalty program for 2024 goes to United. They're part of Star Alliance, which has, I believe, the largest alliance, so the most number of partner airlines to book flights with. Its ease of use goes a really long way for me. And just the ability to earn their points in volume is virtually unmatched with any other airline program. There's a number of co-branded cards you can get, as well as transfer options that, even if it doesn't have the best award rates, which I will never admit that it has the best award rates, the combination of extensive partner availability, the excursionist perk, and the ability to earn so many points definitely takes the cake for me. If you listen to our last episode, you know that a number of my trips next year, I utilized my United miles because that's where options were. So for me, and in my opinion, and I know that there's going to be some people who disagree with me, but I'm going to stand by and say that United gets my award as the best airline loyalty program in 2024.
I love it. And I don't disagree with much of the analysis, but there was one particularly word, I think you said virtually any other program. And there is one, I think, that best United in many of the categories that you mentioned. Easy to earn points because they transfer from everywhere. Co-brand cards, a little bit weaker. But my selection for best airline loyalty program of 2024 is Flying Blue, Air France Flying Blue. This is one where we have seen a ton of award space at very great rates, sometimes even like flash sale type deals. And that has happened, and I think they do deserve extra credit for the fact that they did that over the summer in which Paris hosted the Olympics and an Eras Tour stop with Taylor Swift. So they had all the reason in the world to like kind of gouge their consumers, jack up prices, no transfer bonuses, make it tough, and they went the complete opposite way. I'm kind of speaking here as the voice of our readers as well. We saw probably more of like the Friday brag bookings in the group on Air France Flying Blue than any other program. And I would venture to guess that most of them were made by people who a year prior couldn't tell you what Flying Blue is. Right? Is that a band? Like, is that are you sad while you're on a plane? But just an incredible program. They have really dominated the space over the past, I'd say 18 months or so. We see just almost on like an hourly basis, readers booking business class flights, generally to Europe for, 50 to 60,000 points each way per person. They are a transfer partner of, I believe, every major bank program. They have had a ton of transfer bonuses, and the sales have just been incredible. I myself have multiple Flying Blue bookings in the past year. It's easy to book with them, even for beginners. Award spaces all over the place. And to point to kind of a third party here, Point.me did a big kind of data-driven analysis of the best programs, and they also chose Flying Blue as number one. So I could not be more of a fan of the Flying Blue Air France program right now, and that is why I chose them for Best Loyalty Program 2024.
I mean, I think Flying Blue makes for a great runner-up option, so it's worthy of a nomination. One of the biggest drawbacks to me when I was considering Best Loyalty Program towards Flying Blue, because I agree, it's certainly deserving of the recognition, is that primarily the value comes for flying between the US and Europe. If you're looking to go elsewhere, it's not quite as valuable unless you're wanting to fly via Europe. But that's why for me calling it the best was a little bit of a struggle, because it's got one area carved out incredibly well, but kind of lacking in others. Whereas United, with their extensive partner network, the high level of availability anywhere is just hard to beat. But I think both are truly right answers.
I do have to issue a quick correction. I would say Flying Blue has two areas that it's like dominating and carving out very well. Number one, Europe, of course. Everyone's using it to fly there. But number two, Bryce's heart. Flying Blue has really, really won me over. And I think a lot of you who are listening are probably in the same boat. But as we mentioned, curious to hear your thoughts on all of these in the comments. Maybe we'll even put together like some aggregate voting of sorts. But I have to imagine that if we did that and did the whole big data-driven approach, I think that United and Flying Blue are definitely both in the top 5, maybe both in the top 3. But certainly, I think well-deserving of that award. And I do agree that United's a wonderful choice on your end as well. So nice selection.
Thanks.
Next up, how about Most Improved Loyalty Program for 2024?
Because Flying Blue made those changes, I honestly can't remember if it was 2024, but I think it was late 2023. Mm-hmm. I've got to go with Virgin Atlantic. They announced dynamic pricing and rolled it out, and it actually was probably what dynamic pricing should be. Instead of an excuse to just charge higher fares, it actually expanded lower fares. We've seen people booking business class to Europe for sometimes under 30,000 points per person, which is just absolutely incredible. There are still some of the drawbacks of high taxes and fees on Virgin Atlantic since they primarily operate out of Heathrow. But I mean, at some point, you've just got to look at it and say, this pricing is really a model that I wish other airlines would take whenever they're making changes to their pricing structure and transitioning to dynamic pricing, whereby it actually offers incentives to book in the off season because you know that you can get that pricing at a better rate. And even though they did some devaluations this year, particularly on ANA operated flights to Japan, they were also pretty minor in the grand scheme of things. So overall, I think they've really the improvements on their own operated flights easily offset the devaluations for me to be the most improved.
I don't disagree on that. Also, 40% transfer bonus at any point throughout the year should put one on the finalist list for most improved. That was impressive. And we did end up talking quite a bit about Virgin Atlantic a couple episodes on this podcast where we did the family travel one. And I was hearing specific examples from our two guests on that episode of, flying a family of 5 to London for like 39,000 points total. That's insane. Crazy. That is insane. Yeah, that was incredible. I agree. Virgin Atlantic, a very strong choice. I'm going to share my own here in just a minute. It's a bit of an unconventional one, and a lot of this might not be like them voluntarily doing this, but I'm going with Alaska Airlines, mainly around the Hawaiian merger. with that kind of happening, and I suppose you could make the argument that this might be a candidate for 2025 because that is still kind of ongoing and finalizing right now. But the fact that that merger happened, they allowed one-to-one point transfers between the two programs, even kind of leaving the door open with a major bank transfer program going to one and then ultimately the other, as well as making commitments to things like allowing families to be able to sit together and compensation for delays and cancellations on their end. They just really showed a commitment to beefing up their program at a time when they could have just taken advantage of the merger and kind of slashed a bunch of stuff and cut award rates and such. Nope, they look like they are very committed to doing this right. And I think that that's going to make them a major player kind of going forward in the points and miles space. I'm excited to participate in that program. And that for me is why I selected them for most improved loyalty program of 2024/25 asterisk.
I think that we're gonna, I think Alaska is already being an early contender for next year as well. In fact, they recently announced, because of their merger with Hawaiian and getting Hawaiian's long haul fleet, that they launched flights between Seattle and both Tokyo and Seoul. And I think those are launching sometime here in 2025. I don't remember the exact dates off the top of my head. But there's a lot of big possibilities here for them to expand more into the international space that I don't know that I necessarily saw coming with the merger. So really, really excited for those as well.
Same. That merger, unlike many others, just seemed to make so much sense. You have two kind of regional-ish dominant players on the western side of the United States coming together, and now kind of getting to a point where they're going to be able to compete with kind of the big players, not just domestically but internationally, and who knows where it'll go from there. That was very exciting and encouraging to see. Usually these things can mean bad news, but that one did not.
Yeah.
So we'll send them their trophy, and I'm sure that's why they made all the decisions to win that one.
Hopefully they'll put it, like, if they win, I mean, whichever airline wins, whether it's Virgin Atlantic or Alaska, maybe they'll start putting that the award on the side of their planes.
Even the ones that lose can just put also mentioned.
Nominated, yeah.
This is a big deal.
Yeah. I mean, I'd probably throw a slight runner-up here to Qatar. They didn't necessarily make any improvements, but joining the Avios program essentially created them as a transfer partner for everyone, which really opened up new opportunities for redemptions as well. I don't think that it's better than the Virgin Atlantic opportunities or the long-term benefits we're going to see from the Alaska-Hawaiian merger, but definitely worth a runner-up spot.
And probably would have won in any of the last 3 years if we'd have been doing this show this long. It was really a pretty good year for overall loyalty program changes, award space, pricing. I'd say one of the better years really just generally in points and miles, as we've seen so many improvements come from these airlines as they try to be more competitive in this space. So
agreed.
Everybody wins. And we'll send participation medals to all of you. Next one's a fun one. Travis, what is your best redemption sweet spot for 2024?
And it's not one that I took advantage of, but I'm just going to give the best redemption sweet spot on ANA booking with their own program to fly their own metal to Japan in business class for 105,000 miles in the low season. There's certainly some caveats to it. The one flexible points currency that transfers to ANA can take, I think, 36-ish hours, 2 to 3 days, really. So there's certainly some caveats there on the risk of availability disappearing. But I think if you're able to book ANA to Japan round trip for 105,000 miles, and ANA's award availability this year has actually been pretty good, it seems. So I got to give the shout out to ANA, 105,000 miles business class, low season to Japan.
Once again, I very much agree with that choice, and I probably would have selected them myself, but for variety, I'm going to throw mine in as Qatar business class, bookable with 70,000 American miles per person to the Middle East, or 75,000 miles all the way to Africa, almost always stopping in the Middle East. This is often Q Suites, which is arguably the best business class product in the sky, although that's not quite as clear cut as it would have been maybe a couple years ago. Finding award space is certainly a little bit more difficult than others. It's more difficult than Travis's selection with ANA. But if you're able to find it at that price, that is just an incredible deal for an incredible product. I find that the Qatar business class product, or Q Suites especially in particular, is one of those ones where like the name doesn't often like trigger a memory or an understanding for most folks. But when you look at like a picture of it or a video, you've probably seen this before on social media. These are the completely enclosed cabins where if you have a companion traveler with you in the seat next to you on the two seats that are in the middle of the plane, you can actually combine them into like a suite where they lower the barrier between the two of you. The bed almost combines into like a full-size bed, and you have privacy doors that can close to make it an entirely enclosed suite. The food is fantastic. The general like vibe when you're on the plane is very comfortable and cozy. I have flown this product once before, love it, and this is one of those ones that a lot of people have it at the top of their bucket list for a points and miles booking because it's doable. They've seen it done before, and at that price, it's just, if you see that, you should absolutely book that right away.
Yeah, and one tip on booking, I know we're nominating awards, but just trying to share little nuggets here every now and then. Qatar's, their own calendar opens up before they share availability to partners. I don't know the exact dates off the top of, like the exact number of dates. I think it's maybe 350 days.
Yeah, it's like
versus
5 more
300
days or something.
Yeah. So if you're like dying to try it, you will want to check as far out as possible. It's 80,000 miles through their own program. So not quite the 70,000 with AA, but a good option there as well. But I agree, like 70,000 AA miles flight Q Suites is pretty awesome.
Yeah, we probably should have specified for this category, like, do you have to pick a particular sweet spot way to book it, or can it be like multiple sweet spots tied to one product? Because that's what we kind of have going on here. But either way, like both are fantastic sweet spots, and if you can get it, get it.
Yeah, I mean you're going to be hard pressed to get a better use of AA miles. So
yeah, agreed. Next up, most reliable airline for award availability. This is the one that you can count on to have seats left, even if you're not, kind of playing the game where you're waiting for seats to open the very moment of, or you have to wait till last second. This is the one you can go to, and they're going to have something for you. So, Travis, your selection for 2024's most reliable airline for award availability is...
This is probably going to be the most disappointing award category for people because I think they're hearing the title of it and looking for some big insider tip of some amazing availability somewhere. And unfortunately, the airlines that are the most reliable are probably like not the sexiest options. So the approach that I took was I filtered out ones where the award price is tied to the cash ticket. So like JetBlue, just because you don't really have to worry about availability there, but ones where they truly release the actual award availability. I'm going to give a shout out to Copa. They're a Star Alliance partner based out of Panama. And if you're looking to go to Central and South America, like you're going to see tons of availability on Copa. It's almost feels impossible to not find availability on Copa. Trust me, I know because of my Antarctica trip, and almost every search I ran, there was always Copa. So when it comes to consistent award availability, at least with my little carve out of it's not tied to a cash price, Copa, congratulations, you get my award.
Yeah, I share your kind of thoughts around the category because it almost feels like, a restaurant that's most likely to have a reservation in Manhattan. Olive Garden, like, yay, like that's great, but there's a reason. I initially wrote Southwest, like where you can buy any seat with points, but my serious answer for this was Air France and Flying Blue. I feel like that has been just so consistent for myself, for our readers lately, and you're going to hear me say Air France, Flying Blue many more times on this episode, kind of currently having a love affair with that airline and program. But they just really nailed it with award space. And again, especially with like this past summer with the Olympics happening in Paris and the Eras Tour coming through, we were seeing so many readers booking trips to both those events, even like a month out when normally you wouldn't even think to search there because there's no chance. Lots of space, both economy, premium cabin as well. We're seeing like families with multiple travelers being able to book that with multiple dates to choose from. They kind of take that award from me in 2024. But I did also want to give a special kind of mention in this category to Lufthansa. I feel like that if you want to fly business class to Europe and have the most options available, Lufthansa is often at the top of that list. Their product is certainly not quite to the level that many of their competitors are for those routes, but the award space is very frequently there at rates that are quite reasonable in the range of like 70 to 85,000 points per person each way, depending on how you book it. And they do allow you to book it many different ways. Finding award availability doesn't require you to do a bunch of tricks on your online search or call people. It's just very straightforward and overall like a serviceable product. So
Yeah.
that's
Well, and I don't know which routes, but they're slowly starting to roll out their new business and first class products. So it might, hopefully that award availability stays, and then you're getting an even better product with it as well.
fingers crossed. Yeah, let's hope so. I'm in situations like that. I'm always like skeptical. I'm like, oh, they're gonna take it away from us, but yeah, I'm optimistic.
Yeah.
So now moving kind of to the other side of that coin, best international airline cabin, even if it's very difficult to book. What do you have for that one for 2024?
I've got two nominees, one for first class and one for business class. And first class, hands down for me, still just has to go to Cathay Pacific. It is not the newest seat, although they have announced a new first class product as well. I don't think that it's flying yet, but it's the only plane I've ever been on where I've overslept, where I've had my plan for sleep and I got woken up like 9 hours later because I slept so soundly, so consistently. Even though it's older, it is so comfortable. It doesn't have the flashy amenities. It's not exciting. But between the comfort level and the quality of service from the crews, I can't say that I've found better. That includes new Emirates. I've flown that. Old Emirates, I've flown that. British Airways, I really liked as well. I've been lucky to fly a number of some of the first class products, but it's no question for me that it goes to Cathay Pacific. Business class is where it gets a little tougher. There's two that come to mind, but ANA edges it out for me. The Room in particular, their new business class, which is flying on more routes to the US. The Room is so good that when I hopefully fulfill my resolution for booking my Japan trip in 2026, I can fly it. And honestly, it's so good. Even if there's first class availability, I don't know that I'd splurge for it. It is that good that I don't know that I would pay extra points for first class. I have not experienced their first class. That doesn't come from experience, but I just enjoyed the business class experience so much that I don't know that the extra points would justify it.
Now, I feel like we have to lean in here and ask, how much of that selection is due to the fact that some of those seats are rear facing and your affinity for flying backward, if you will?
That is true, but it even goes to just little details. I use my AirPods now, but I used to have the over-the-ear noise canceling ones that you plug in, and it was so frustrating getting on flights and like if the plug is on this side for my headphones, but the one to plug it in is over here, and I've got this cord dangling in front of me plus the seatbelt. Little things like that. What did ANA do? They've got headphone plugs on both sides. I actually think they've got them in like 3 different. I don't remember if I counted 3 or 2, but they had them on both sides, so that way whichever one works better for you, they'd plug in with. So just so much little attention to detail to take that experience even higher.
That is subtle but important for travelers. I completely agree that the cord mess is never fun. Kind of brings it down, even if you're sipping on Dom Perignon and enjoying yourself in first class.
Yeah.
First world problems. For me, and I guess I'd say I do somewhat defer to Travis on this one because I have not tried Cathay myself, but for my choice for best international airline cabin first class, I went Emirates. I feel like that's going to be a popular choice for a lot of folks here. I mean, kind of like case in point, they have a shower and a bar in the plane on most plane types. for them. That is incredible. The actual like seat and private cabin that you get itself also fantastic. It's comfortable. The lighting is wonderful. The temperature was great for me. The seat was quite comfortable. There's a little mini bar in your seat that has like 6 or 7 non-alcoholic drinks that you can just kind of grab right there. Service was wonderful. I was just so comfortable in that cabin as well that I also slept great, which is not something I do frequently on planes. And just like did not want to get off the plane because I was having so much fun. So Emirates, for me, clear cut for first class. And I'm hoping that my business class one is the second one you mentioned as a contender. But I went with Q Suites. Yeah,
Qatar. I didn't want to spoil it for you.
Yep. Qatar's Q Suites really make you question the line between business and first class because it is a private pod, if you will. And that's even if you're not kind of doing the conventional, like combine with the seat next to you into like the bigger Q suite. Like you still have a private suite with the door that closes. The cabin, like the lighting is actually very underrated in that one. Like you get like these nice like oranges and blues that make you feel like you're not on an airplane. It's very comfortable. They have kind of like candlelight vibes going on. Love that product. And like if I have to choose any business class best international airline cabin, and I do for this episode, I'm going with Q Suites from Qatar Airlines.
I mean, Q Suites are incredible. Emirates first too. Emirates is a really the amenities. I mean, like you said, the seat is comfortable. The amenities just make such a huge part of the experience. I mean, heated floors in the bathroom is just feels so over the top on an airplane. Again, that's only on the A380, which has the shower suites, but really is a very, very strong competitor.
Absolutely. And the size of the bathroom too, I think is an underrated perk. Like the bathrooms on that A380 are probably larger than most of your listing, like the guest bathroom that you have on kind of the main floor of your home. Like it's sizable. You have room to space out. I believe they have a hairdryer on a plane.
Maybe.
Like how does that work?
That's I don't know. My hair doesn't necessitate a hairdryer, so
Same.
Those are things I don't pay attention to. But it honestly, even if it wasn't in there, it wouldn't surprise me if they had one on board.
Agreed. Very on brand for them.
Yeah.
Next up, top bucket list airline redemption for you for 2024.
My top bucket list airline is, I thought of this as what have I not flown that I want to the most? And I've got to go with the new Japan Airlines first class. Just looks absolutely stunning. Japan Airlines has always had what looks like a very nice first class product. You know, I've never been to Japan, haven't flown Japan Airlines, but just the new one just looks incredible and does look worth the splurge to me. So if there's one that's a bucket list for me right now, it's got to be JAL first class.
And this is going to be an easy one. I just said retweet all of that. Like Japan Airlines first class looks amazing. Something about like the squareness of it all. I mean that like geometrically, like the seat is square, the pod is square. It just looks very, very visually appealing. The seats are huge. It almost looks like it's like a big like lazy boy style seat with like a little sidecar type seat next to it if you want to sit with a friend, I suppose. Nice little like burgundy color on the leather. It just like it looks like it's begging you to come and sit and relax and enjoy yourself in a very spacious product on a lovely, lovely airline. I look forward to trying that, but I'm concerned about the fact that I'm competing for award space with at least one individual who I'm looking at right now on the podcast because it is not easy to find that, especially the new one. But I'm very much looking forward to trying it.
Well, for those of you in the Facebook group, our community moderator, Levon, actually flew it just a few days ago. So if you're curious about the experience, he's got the answers. I've just got the envy.
I was to say, I am just individually curious, even if we don't share it with all 360-some thousand insiders. Like, I want to see the photos because that looks awesome.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to hotel and destination categories. Travis, I'm curious, what is the most exciting new hotel for you that's bookable with points?
Well, I haven't gone yet. I got a few days until I leave, but I'm obviously biased. It's the Waldorf Astoria Platte Island in the Seychelles. Just looks absolutely beautiful, like a stunning property. Everything I've read about it seems amazing. The points value is incredible. Most nights are about 1,500 to 2,000 euro a night. And if you transfer to Hilton, you're paying at most 60,000 points a night. But if you can take advantage of a transfer bonus, less than 40,000 points per night if you stack the fifth night free. Between the value, the location, and just the rave things I've heard about it, it's definitely the most exciting new hotel for me as a certified beach bum that can be booked with points. And I will report back on if it lives up to my hype.
Now, I am curious, the certification for Beach Bum, does that require like continuing education? Like, are there new things to learn in Beach Bum, or are you just certified for life?
It requires an annual exam to be sure that your beach bum proficiency is up to the standards of the WBBA, the World Beach Bum Association.
Now, there's a conference I would look forward to attending. And if it did happen, it's maybe going to happen at my choice for most exciting new hotel bookable points, and that is the Westin Bora Bora. Now, I picked this one because, well, Bora Bora, incredible. But also that's a spot where most points hotels are insanely expensive, and there's just not a ton of options. Like, we see a lot of folks who come to 10x Travel into Points and Miles and like, yes, I want to go to Bora Bora. Like, okay, have you looked at hotels yet? No. Okay, once you do, you know what? I want to go to Hawaii. It kind of scares a lot of people away. But the Westin Bora Bora, you can find award nights typically in like the 65 to 70,000 points per night range, but some as low as like 56,000 points per night, which actually makes it an appealing use of any 50K free night certs that you can top off. So the fact that it's in such a beautiful location, it's a great brand, it's a brand new property, and it's an option in a space where you normally wouldn't be able to use points for a hotel that would cost upwards of over $1,000 per night. I'm super excited to try that. And if only JL flew their new first product there, I could just knock them both out in one swoop. But I'm sure I could piece that together. But that is my choice for most exciting new hotel.
I'm wondering, it's obviously not the same value as when the Westin in the Maldives opened, but I am imagining we're going to see so many more people here. Your other primary points options historically have been the St. Regis or the Intercontinental that are truly in Bora Bora. There's Hilton in Moorea, and I think there might be a Waldorf there. It feels like there should be.
There is, yeah. Where do you see those other ones coalesce? It's like the old Wendy's always across from McDonald's kind of thing.
Yeah, but those are always like going to cost a tremendous amount of points, and I think for a lot of people, the Westin, it looks stunning, and the points value there is really going to drive a lot, as well as the fact that points availability seems much more readily available, whereas the others, putting together a points trip to Bora Bora is tough because it's hard to find flights and it can be hard to find hotel availability. And I think the Westin is going to start solving one of those parts of the equation. So I think it's going to get a lot of attention. So good call there.
And all good things for us as Points and Miles travelers too, to make that destination more accessible to us without blowing 500,000 points just on the stay. Yeah, I'm a fan. How about best value destination bookable with points?
This was, I felt like probably one of the toughest categories to think about, because there's some great value destinations close to the US, but that maybe aren't as flashy. And then there are some good value ones farther away. So you're going to spend more points on your flights there and back. But once you're there, the value is really high. And I approached value destination, not in necessarily the value you're going to get for your points, but where the combo of your points and your money is going to stretch a lot farther. And for me, Indonesia is what came to mind. You're going to pay a little bit more for your flights, but you've got a vast number of hotel options. Yes, you've got high-end options like the St. Regis. There's a new luxury hotel one there as well that I thought about nominating for Best New Points Hotel, that looks really beautiful as well. But you've also got some really nice hotels there at a fraction of the points. I think the Grand Hyatt, I'd have to double check, but it used to be like 5,000 points per night in Bali, which is just absolutely incredible. And in addition to that, when you're there, your dollar goes really far. If you're based in the U.S., which I just take the assumption that most of our listeners are, that your ground experiences are also going to be pretty affordable. So even if you're spending a little bit more in points, the area where you are going to need to spend cash on any vacation is going to be more affordable. So I'm going to go Indonesia as best value destination, bookable with points.
Excellent choice. Yeah, and for mine, I'm realizing I did not factor in kind of cost of everything else while you're there. So I will include kind of a second choice here that does include that jumped to mind. But my original choice here was the Bahamas, and specifically Baha Mar. And I know I mentioned this on kind of every episode. We could do, what are your favorite airlines based out of Asia? And somehow I'd find a way to insert Baha Mar into that discussion. But I feel like Bahamas and Baha Mar are a wonderful choice because, number one, kind of proximity. Like if we're talking about value, I kind of looked at this through the lens of ability to do this not only kind of inexpensively or at good value with points and miles, but also kind of with your time. And the fact that the Bahamas is just like an hour flight from Florida, there's many different ways to get there. Southwest flies there. So even if you have to do a portal booking or pay cash, it's relatively inexpensive to get there. And then the Baha Mar being just such an incredible resort that can be booked for as little as 20,000 Hyatt points per night. Yes, there are some kind of taxes and fees on top of that are not inconsequential. And when you're there, everything's just a little bit more expensive, kind of like food and bottles of water and stuff starts to add up a little bit. But purely from like a points perspective, being able to book incredible resort at 20,000 points per night and so many different flight options at probably a similar total there makes that a wonderful choice, especially being so close to the United States. But kind of the second choice, as I consider the lens of which you look through it, I'd throw Thailand in there for a lot of the same reasons why you mentioned Indonesia. Yes, definitely farther than the Bahamas is, but Bangkok being just a major hub for all Asian travel means that you have so many different ways to travel there on points and miles. For flight-wise, you have every major brand having pretty much their entire portfolio there, and at least in Bangkok, as well as if you head south to the islands, tons of choices, and your dollar goes so much farther for things like meals and ground transportation, entertainment and such, where you're not going to come home having completely broken the bank on that trip. That was actually my first big points and miles trip was to Thailand. I look forward to going back at some point in the near future, and for all the reasons I just mentioned, it being the best value destination bookable with points.
But until then, we're going to call you Baha Mar Bryce.
We'll just go with Baja Bryce. It sounds like
a
Taco Bell item. The Baja Bryce. But yeah, I'll be getting my Baha Mar tattoo here shortly. Paid for by them, hopefully. Next category, best unsexy redemption. This is kind of the one that's you don't do for the gram, if you will, but it's just a lot of fun, a lot of value. Travis, what is your best unsexy redemption?
Yeah, I'm going with the hometown hero here. I'm giving my nomination to the Thompson in Houston. We did a staycation there recently, and 20,000 points. Most nights it's $400 or $500 a night. It is just a beautiful hotel. The reason I consider it unsexy is because I kind of always tell people I love living in Houston, but it doesn't feel like a touristy place. Like if people tell me they're coming to visit Houston and it's not for work, I'm usually trying to understand why. But if you are, for whether you're looking for a long weekend or something, which there's certainly stuff to do, you can go down to NASA. The Thompson here in Houston, it's a really good balance of value and getting a bit of a luxurious feel. It's a great location. It's getting my win for best unsexy redemption.
Big fan of Thompson Houston myself. A quick side story about that I always think about Thompson Houston. Actually, I was there with you. I was in an elevator in the Thompson at Houston. I got on there. I was wearing some sort of 10X Travel shirt. There's a woman in the elevator. I hop in and she goes immediately like, 10X Travel, do you work for 10X Travel? Like, I read that website. I was like, oh yeah, hi, like, I'm Bryce, like, nice to meet you. And she kind of like, did you say Bryce? Right? Like, Brian? Bryce? Like, didn't quite immediately get it. I was like, yeah, Bryce. There's kind of like a pause. She goes, are Emily, Matt, and Travis here? And I was like, yes, they're also here. You'll see them when you get off the elevator in the lobby. But it's like, I don't know who you are, but let me meet these other three. But love that property and everything about it. The food is great. The room was incredibly comfortable. The floor to ceiling windows, even in the shower, that was a lot of fun. But for me, my best Unsexy redemption is one that's coming up. It's the Hyatt Regency Mission Bay in San Diego. I'm heading there for wedding in January. Cash rates were outrageous, which kind of shocked me for like late January. I'm not sure why that was. And of course, I need a room for a family of 5, which is even more outrageous. But I was able to get a suite there for just 22,000 Hyatt points per night, and was fortunate enough to even have a reader in the Facebook group who was giving away guest of honor bookings. It was just like, oh, hey, hit me up. And I happened to see it go up right away and got it. So
Wow.
not that that's replicable by most people, but
Yeah.
by happenstance, that's my best recent unsexy redemption. What would have been a very expensive and kind of uncomfortable trip, maybe booking 2 rooms for the family, looks like it's going to be a lot of fun and for not a lot of points. So I'm super excited about that.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't have this as a category on here, but I think it would probably go unquestioned that best, which feels funny because if you listen to our Hotel Showdown episode, I would argue otherwise, but I think a lot of people would nominate Hyatt for the best program. The ability to book suites with points, which, yeah, it's available with other programs, but the pricing is usually just outrageous, is a big win factor for Hyatt, especially for families who need the extra space. And you could spend probably sometimes even more points to book 2 rooms versus a nice suite. So big win there in the family travel category for Hyatt.
Absolutely. Moving up next to some more kind of general categories. The next one is the most exciting new feature or trend in the points and miles space. This one highlights game-changing innovations in travel rewards, such as new tools, industry shifts, etc. So Travis, who do you got?
I'm nominating that the most exciting trend in the point space is international airlines fighting for better redemptions. As if Bryce hasn't said it enough, Air France Flying Blue, I nominated Virgin Atlantic. American Airlines introduced Web Special Awards. We're seeing a trend where airlines are wanting more people to redeem their points with them versus the competition. I think that this is pure speculation, but from the airline's perspective, it used to be that loyalty programs they didn't have to worry about competing with others because most of the people who were in their loyalty programs were their own frequent flyers. And now with transfer partners and international competition really coming in, our domestic airlines are looking at that and having to adapt. So I think those international airlines fighting for better redemptions is hopefully going to see a long-term trend for the better, especially amongst U.S. airlines. If not, hey, I'm happy to transfer my points to the international airlines and book through them. So it's rare that when we hear about changes that they actually end up being for the positive, even though the airline PR departments do their best to spin it. I think these are ones that Air France, Flying Blue, and Virgin Atlantic are actually doing things that are positive for travelers.
Yeah, that spin is always fun, right? You get the email, it's like, new and exciting changes to our award program. Like, big and bold at the top, like, we are adding slightly hotter water to our bathrooms, and we're slashing our redemptions price we're slashing our point value by 80%, and this and this and this, all these bad things. Yeah. I feel bad for those PR teams that have to kind of spin that. I have an answer I'm going to give to this here in just a moment, but first I want to make what's going to be kind of a bold claim. After hearing what you just said, I'm curious for you to react to it.
Okay.
Was 2024 the best year in the points and miles hobby in recent history, maybe ever? You had huge card bonuses back to back to back to back to back. You had better transfer bonuses than I've ever seen. You had new players entering, like kind of the Air France of the world with just tons of award space, premium cabin. You have my answer, which I'm going to give here in just a second, that adds to it. You have a lot of folks who are sitting on a lot of points and miles from the COVID era, and just, I don't know, I can't think of a year where it's been better to earn and redeem miles than 2024.
Yeah, I mean, at least in what I would consider the modern points era, kind of 2014 and beyond, which, to be fair, I was not participating before then.
Because you were
at
like
least
in high school, right?
Yeah.
you were debating toasters.
Yeah. In the modern points era, I'd probably agree. Increased award availability, decreased prices, increased transfer bonuses from banks, increased offers on cards has made it feel easier than ever to participate in points and miles this year. So I'd probably say yeah.
I suppose that could have been my answer. Maybe it would be a better one, but I'll give you what I initially wrote down. For my most exciting new feature trend in the point space, and that is the explosion of award search tools. I'm talking about Roam, Points.me, Seats.aero, these tools that can go out and scrape airline award calendars and give you not perfect results, but I'd say 85% correct results, where you can just run one search and it will go out and kind of find all of the options available for you. Now, I will preface this with the usual situation that we see with these, and that is that these are not a substitute for learning how to do this manually yourself. We see so many beginners who will run a search on this and they'll be very confused as to why the results are different than what they actually see. It's not perfect, but these are certainly making it a lot easier for the average person to kind of learn the basic thought process behind redemptions and search many, many options much, much more quickly in one single place. And I'm just so excited to watch these tools continue to roll out, advance, add new features, and grow, because it's just making it easier for all of us. So that hopefully 2025 will be the best year in points and miles ever. But we will see.
Yeah, I know that I really leaned into them this past year, at least as like a starting point to get a sense for what's out there. So that way I can better spend my efforts on the manual side.
Agreed, yeah. How about best program for newbies?
I mean, does it come as any surprise? Do I even need to say it? That it's got to be United. You can search online. It's very easy to book. Even nuances like using the excursionist perk you can do online, whereas with other airlines you have to call in for some of their special things. And just the ease to earn a lot of points quickly for it. If someone's new and doesn't have very specific goals in mind where United might not fit it, I'm pointing them towards an airline program. I'm pointing them towards United. I think Southwest maybe could be a competitor here as well with the companion pass and the easy to understand there. But in terms of totally agnostic to goals, your travel situation, if I had to recommend one to someone, it would simply be United for the reasons I said earlier.
Yeah, for me on this, I was tempted to say American Airlines for a lot of the reasons why you mentioned, just super easy to book, calendar feature, all that. But the fact that it's so difficult to earn their miles is kind of a major factor, and really a common beginner trap of the, oh my goodness, look at this incredible stuff I found on AA. How do I book that with my transferable points? Like, you don't, at least not directly. You got a partner airline, and that introduces all sorts of complexities that are tough for newbies. But I ultimately landed on United. It is so easy to search on their site. And I think like a couple of factors that play in here that really cater to like the best for newbies is with United, at least in my experience, transferring points from transferable currency to United is always instant. Always, like the most instant, like log out, log back in, boom, there's your points. That's a big deal. Nothing throws newbies off quite like the whole, like you got to wait 1 or 2 or maybe 3 days for your points to come through. And also just searching online for them with like the calendar features and seeing all the options and all the partner awards is about as good as any airline out there, which also makes it so much easier. Like you don't want to have to call, you don't want to have to try to find award space on a different site and then know that that's going to map over to this other airline. It's just very, very easy and intuitive and right there, and everything about it is just easy for beginners.
Well, and throw in the ability to cancel your award tickets again online and get your points refunded again virtually instantly. It adds a layer for newbies of, when you're new to this and you're doing your first award searches and you're worried, will something better come up? Maybe there'll be a sale. You don't have to worry about that because you can go ahead and book it, and then if that does happen, you can cancel it and get those points back. And the ease of using that means, for me personally, like I'm not worried about if I'm going to use my United miles. I know that I'm going to. So its robustness as a program, despite some of its downfalls, and its user friendliness, really goes a long way.
Agreed. Next up, best family-friendly loyalty program. This is recognizing programs that cater to families with kids or larger groups and any sorts of perks that are designed for that sort of clientele. And I'll jump in here first, and I'll say my usual, I like to say this, as a parent, family of 5. I went with Air France and Flying Blue. I think the fact that they have lots of award space, and we've talked about this a number of times over the last couple episodes, but when you're looking for 3, 4, 5 or more tickets, that kind of wipes out most award programs at this point. Air France Flying Blue is going to have that in a lot of situations, even for premium cabin travel. And then kind of the icing on the cake is the 25% discount on award bookings for minors aged 2 through 11, which, if you have multiple kids in that range, that adds up. And you can also pool miles with the Flying Blue family. So you don't have to worry about the kind of siloed, isolated miles and all of your kids' accounts and all that. Easy to pull them all together and redeem them with good award space and at good rates.
Yeah, as not a parent, this is a category that I am not the most well versed in, so I'm not going to pretend or try. So I'm going to echo Bryce here. I know that there are others, but the one that came to mind was Air France Flying Blue because I knew about their 25% discount. I know that there's other options out there, but for all the reasons Bryce said, this one's unanimous in my book.
Agreed, and also unanimous 2 episodes ago when we focused entirely on family travel and brought on 2 readers who have a lot of experience in space. If you look at a graph of one of those word clouds, the most said words in the entire episode, I think Air France and Flying Blue is the big one in the middle. We just talked about that so much because it's been so great for families lately. So, big fan. Next up, best airport lounge experience. And this one, there's a wide range of lounge experiences out there. So, Travis, which one's the best for you?
There is. This one, again, I didn't hesitate on. There's only one lounge I've ever been to that when it was time to leave and board my flight, I was not eagerly ready to. And I happily look forward to long layovers to get to spend time in this lounge. It's not Emirates. Emirates' lounge, I don't want more than 3, maybe 4 hours max. It's not. The British Airways Concorde room, way overrated. It's certainly not American Airlines flagship first. The one lounge that hands down is the best to me in the entire world. And yeah, some of you are going to downgrade it because of accessibility, and it's not like you have to be flying first class, but it's no surprise. It's Cathay Pacific's first class lounges in Hong Kong, particularly the Pier. They're just so easy to spend so much time in. Whether, if you want a meal, there's the full restaurant, which a lot of lounges will say they've got a restaurant, but it's more just the same table situated elsewhere. This one really felt like its own restaurant. There was a little spa where you could get little 15-minute appointments, whether it was a pedicure or a little shoulder rub. There's nap rooms that you don't actually have to nap in, but they overlook the concourse, so they're great to just kind of get away, relax for an hour, look at planes. There's bathrooms, which not like bathrooms where you use the bathrooms,
they like bathrooms? Rooms. Whoa!
Yeah, wow, ooh, high standards for Travis. They've got these rooms that have baths in them, so a lot of lounges you'll have a shower room, but it has a pretty large bathtub where you can go have a bubble bath, just relax. It really is a great lounge experience, and no question to me that it's the best lounge that I've ever been to. There's still some great ones out there I haven't visited yet, but if every lounge was like the Pier and the other Cathay Pacific first class lounges, I would be a very, very happy person.
Same. I have not had a chance to try that one yet, but it is high on my list. For me, I gave kind of 2 answers here. We'll start first with kind of the strict interpretation, actual best lounge overall, and that's the Al Safwa. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's the Qatar's first class lounge in Doha. Qatar has 2 huge lounges in Doha, which is their hub. There's the business class one, which the name escapes me at the moment, and then the first class one. Both are incredible. In fact, the business class one's probably still in the top 7 in the world for lounges, but first class one was incredible. It's the size of an entire airport terminal. There's actually 2 high-end restaurants. I'm talking caviar, high-end champagne, table service, very quiet atmosphere, delicious food. They do have like multiple, I don't know if they call them nap rooms, but same idea, kind of like little hotel rooms that you can kind of check out, get some sleep, some privacy for a little bit. It's just so quiet. There's actually like a little waterfall in the lounge. Just, I did not want to leave that at all. And I think I had like a 5.5 hour layover there, and it just seemed to go flying by. Loved that. But of course, that's, truly like top of the top. There's only one of those around. So I also added just Centurion lounges in general. I think deserve a mention here for kind of like best, I'd say like everyday lounge that folks can access. And yes, I know they're becoming more crowded. And yes, I know the guest policies become more restrictive and such. Those are certainly negatives there. But when you're inside of those, you're so comfortable. Good food, accessible drink, lots of seating, visually appealing. And the biggest one for me is they have kids' rooms generally. Like there's a little playroom that has usually like Bluey on TV. They have toys, they have puzzles, they have coloring. And, when you're a parent on a layover with kids who are kind of already getting a little traveled, if you will, and you have the ability to go in there and you're not bothering other travelers, they can kind of just be kids for a while. That is just worth its weight in gold. And that is why I voted for Centurion Lounge for Best Airport Lounge Experience. Next up, we have some fun categories. I'm actually going to jump out of order here to stick with lounges. Let's go with Saddest Lounge Experience. What's on the other side of that coin for you, Travis?
Yep. I'll preface this one with, it's not truly the saddest lounge I've been to, but one of the saddest lounge experiences that I had this past year. As much as I love my United clubs, there was one United club I visited, and I honestly don't remember which airport. I want to say it was in O'Hare. The AC wasn't working. The only food that they put out were dry sandwiches. It was just... I think I left after about 30 minutes because I was like, I'd rather be sitting at the terminal, like with my AirPods in, listening to something than being in here. I've been to some bad lounges elsewhere, but I've never been to one so bad that I'm like, I'm just going to leave. So I think I'm going to go with wherever that United club was, and I hope that it got fixed.
Yeah, when you get that, I feel like the airline branded lounges are a mixed bag. Sometimes pretty good. Sometimes I'll see you at Chili's. For me, Saddest Lounge Award, and there's some recency bias to this because like you, Travis, I've been to a lot of very sad lounges in my life that I don't immediately recall. But the one that jumped to mind was the Gold Air Lounge in Athens, Greece. This lounge, this was just awful. So it's not a very big lounge. It's probably the size of like a maybe 1.5 typical airport restaurants, if you will. But it's like the partner lounge for like 6 major airlines. And Athens is not a particularly huge airport as it is. So there's not a lot of other options. So it was so crowded. There was not enough chairs for everyone. Even if you ignored kind of, social, behavior. And it's like, oh, do I sit right next to this person? Even if you like literally sit seat to seat to seat, not enough room for everyone, but they were still letting people in. The bathrooms are actually outside of the lounge. You have to like walk across like a part of a terminal. And I think there's only 2 toilets each for men and women. And at least for the men, one of them is also a storage closet. So you have like a toilet room that also has like a cleaning cart that is surrounded by like cleaning supplies. Like, okay, this is fun. The food was not good. The drink selection was not good. They weren't restocking most things. That was one of those lounges too. We left early because like this is just not pleasant for us, and we'd rather just go sit in the terminal. So that was unfortunate.
I feel like that's such a good standard though, because so many lounges, I'm like, especially in the Priority Pass network, is generally the ones where you get an inconsistent experience. And so many, I'm telling myself, this is better than sitting at the gate. And when you're willing to just leave to go sit at the gate is usually a sign of, okay, this is not it.
This ain't it. Yeah, completely agree. That's a good standard. If it's better at the gate, why are you here? A couple more here. Next up, just MVP in general. Any program, tool, etc. that made the biggest impact on your strategy this year?
Yeah, I don't think that a lot of people are going to agree with me on this. This is really personal to me and my strategy. My MVP is Aeromexico. It's not a program that's talked about that often. It's one that I had never used before, but their award availability out of Mexico City tends to be pretty good. Their points costs typically are a little high, but there were a number of transfer bonuses there this year that really kind of leveled it out. So I took advantage of that and spent less than 70,000 points per person for a business class flight between Mexico City and Buenos Aires. I was obviously hoping for United Polaris from Houston there, but they hardly ever release award availability on that route. And other options were just not really that great, but you're getting a 787 with lie flat seats at pretty reasonable pricing. And with pretty consistent availability. So it was a program that I decided to nominate for MVP, mostly because it was one that hadn't gotten my attention much before, but that I think I might start looking at with a little bit more frequency in the future.
And of course, particularly convenient for you being Texas based.
Yeah.
How far is that flight? Houston to Mexico City?
3 hours.
Oh, okay. I was thinking that was shorter.
No, it's surprisingly farther than it seems.
Gotcha. I guess getting out of the state of Texas is an hour and a half flight, probably in about any direction.
Yeah. Two and a half, 2 hours, 45 minutes. So but I've repositioned to New York before, which is a 3.5, 4 hour flight. So it's not as close as it seems, but certainly is not that bad. We're repositioning the day before for obvious reasons, but
yeah, that's a wonderful choice. For me, I know, we're at broken record alert. Here we go. Your podcast platform is not malfunctioning. This is just me saying again that Air France Flying Blue wins MVP. I won't rehash everything, but easy to earn points, lots of award space, pretty good product, discount for kids, pooling miles for families. All of that is relatively new in the last 2 years. That's my go-to lately. That is my, I guess, MVP, most valuable program. There we go.
Flying Blue Baja Bryce.
There we go. Yes. Next up, worst dining experience, whether hotel, airline. Yeah. What's the worst thing you ate related to points and miles?
So I didn't nominate based off of the worst thing I ate. But I nominated an airline here based off of some changes they made. As much as I love them, I nominated United here. This might feel a little out of touch for some people, but they changed their first class catering on domestic flights to only apply to flights over 900 miles. What this means is a number of their hub-to-hub routes, like Houston to Chicago or Denver to San Francisco, no longer qualify for meal service. A number of these flights are, 2.5-ish hours and overlap with meal times. So it's a bit of a bummer to see, especially if you're using your points for domestic first class, which a lot of people will tell you isn't necessarily worth it. But sometimes the pricing is so close that it's like, I'll spend an extra 5,000 points for the comfier seat. But if you're doing it and expecting the seat and the meal, there's a number of routes where you would probably expect it that you're not going to see it anymore. So United gets it here. This was this feels like one of those, they brought a consultant in to figure out how they could save a certain amount of money. And they were like, oh, just shorten this or increase the distance on which you offer complimentary meals in first class. It's just one of those things that feels unnecessary. Like, how much can that meal cost? It improves your customer experience. And especially when a number of your hub-to-hub options get eliminated because of it, it's just a bummer to see. So United, this is where you get my downvote. This was a customer unfriendly move that I don't know. This was a customer unfriendly move. We'll finish it with that.
I think I know their thinking on this already. It's just, you can eat stroopwafels for lunch. We'll bring you 3 of them. Why would you want to eat anything else?
But they don't do stroopwafels anymore.
Oh, are those gone?
I have not seen them in a long time.
I need to update my choice for this then. Who got rid of that? That was a horrible. So that's the best part of flying United.
Yeah.
Well, for my answer, I had American Airlines domestic first has had a lot of misses for me lately. And again, as Travis mentioned, not something I typically am spending more points on, except for a few occasions. But like the last few I've been there, usually it's breakfast service for me. Just kind of when I find myself flying out of Columbus, and I feel like they have an internal competition going to see who can take the most color, flavor, and just general like nutrition out of a pineapple. And they're all good at it. Like they just bring out these fruit trays where it's just like there are 4 different shades of off-white, like pineapple, melon, and it's just like this has been kind of completely washed of any sort of flavor or texture or anything. Rock hard. There's like a sad yogurt next to it, like a chobani, and that's what they call like meal service. And I'm like, this isn't it. Especially the routes I typically fly them is going to be like kind of all the way to the West Coast, so it's a meal or a flight where you're kind of counting on a meal to get you through it. And I often end up setting that plate back, having had like 2 grapes and maybe like a breakfast biscuit of some sort, and find myself wanting more food. So
it's like in that instance, you'd rather it be United, who's might just not give you anything.
I mean, I would truly almost rather that, because then you just sit there and it takes like 40 minutes for them to clear the plate of air quotes food. And it's like, this is great. I think I'll have some of your, what are those vegan gummy bear things that, that's their saving grace. Their snack basket has those, I can picture the label, I can't think of the name. I'm sure everyone listening is just shouting it right now at the gym or whatever, but yeah, that's usually what I end up filling myself on. So the last one is, we're going to call this other award categories. These are kind of quick hitters that we can jump in on here that are mostly sarcastic fun. But first one up, I guess this is technically business class award. Do you have anything to contribute to this one, Travis? I guess I'll quickly throw out intra-Europe business class. You often forget, like, that last leg's business class. Why are all the middle seats taken already? Oh yeah, it's just economy where they block the middle seats.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say United's high density 777s that they fly, some within the U.S. and particularly to Hawaii. Yes, it is technically business class, but it feels more like a glorified premium economy seat.
I totally agree. I'm always sad when I'm flying that, even if I'm almost to my destination. Yeah. The next one I had here, End of an Era Award, in which I threw up End of the Eras Tour travel. We saw so many award bookings this past year for folks who are traveling to see Taylor Swift and international stops that she made on her tour. And I'm kind of sad to see that end, because that was a major driver of points and miles participation and people using this and getting into the hobby to accomplish that goal and hopefully sticking with the hobby. But kind of sad to see that one go. Let's see.
I don't think I can top that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's right in the name. How do you beat it, right? I feel like the what year is it award goes to any airline / bank they partner with that does not have instant point transfers. Like, fam, I can transfer thousands of dollars between bank accounts in like a day now for free. How can you not transfer points from a bank to an airline in less than 24 hours? That's just unacceptable. And it breaks my heart when we see readers who save up for a trip and they transfer it and it's like, poof, the award space kind of disappears. And to be clear, like, there's still options at that point. You're not completely out, but it's just so disappointing that like a technical limitation that should be solvable is not solved in 2024, about to be 2025.
Yeah. I mean, I'd stack Emirates on that as well. When you pair a bank's transferable currency to Emirates, especially those banks where it's like not tied to a specific card, Emirates does tie it to a specific card. And so if you don't remember which one it is and you try to transfer from a different card, it will not go through. This happened to me this year, and Emirates is no help. The banks are no help. Just an absolute kind of nightmare. Like, just fix that. Clearly, you should know that this is a problem by now. Why does it have to work this way?
Yeah, they got to fix that. That's and hopefully the pressure from like the many other international airlines who are coming into the U.S. market and doing really well will kind of push them to do that, because it's just that small thing makes it so much harder to use their points and miles, especially for beginners. Do you have anything for the why don't more people know about this or do this category?
I'm gonna throw up repositioning to Mexico. For those of us who it's relatively close to, I talked about Mexico City, but I've helped advise someone reposition to Cancun last year. Turkish Airlines actually flies. They fly from Istanbul to Cancun to Mexico City, so you can reposition there to get some award availability on Turkish. A number of European airlines fly to Mexico City. It's one of those I'm looking at doing it more. Of course, I understand why in Columbus you wouldn't do it. That's the same reason why I don't reposition to like Toronto, because why would I do that? But for people more in the southern US, if you're already looking at repositioning, look to Mexico. There's a number of airlines that fly there with pretty good award availability as well.
Yeah, I had something similar. And the why don't more people do this kind of just regional focus on awards around repositioning. We see so many readers who are like based in like, Omaha, Nebraska, and they want to fly to like Cologne, Germany, and they run an award search, and like, yeah, guess what? There's no award space, because on either end of that itinerary is some tiny little flight that's going to ruin the entire trip. I think more people need to be thinking about, all right, how about North America to Europe? And I just did this for my trip to Italy this coming summer myself, flying to Munich and spending a couple of days there, because there's just amazing flight options for that, and then ultimately hopping down to Italy. It's just, a lot of folks just don't think to do that, and I understand it's a little bit intimidating. Like, it's a separate reservation. Yes, you probably have to spend a night in a different city, but a lot of times when you're looking at these kind of Omaha to Cologne type reservations, you're going to end up doing that anyway. So why not just kind of optimize for your points, just getting over the ocean? So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Any other superlatives you want to toss in here before we wrap up this episode?
The last one I'll leave, the Dave Ramsey's Nightmare Award. It's just my 10X account.
Oh, yes. Yes. We need to get it. I wish we could get his attention to get him on a show and just go through there and just be like, wait, you have how many cards? Total annual fees or what? Like,
yeah,
that would be a lot of fun.
That's his nightmare right there.
Maybe someday that would be a very fun episode. I can imagine he's not going to accept our invitation, but we'll see.
Yeah, probably not.
Well, let's wrap this thing up. Key takeaways here. First of all, don't forget to let us know who your winners are, either here on this episode's post in the YouTube comments or in the Facebook group. We're curious to your superlatives. Feel free to make up some of your own, especially kind of leaning into those kind of silly ones we did there at the end. We're curious on your own thoughts as well. Remember that we're here to help you make the most out of your points and miles this year. Sign up for 10X Travel Plus. Make sure to use your 2 one-on-one consults that you get each year as part of that plan, as well as your 1 free award booking, so the experts can kind of take all that hassle off of your plate and do the work for you. Make sure to sign up for our free web tool, My 10X. It makes the entire points and miles game feel like it's on easy mode. You can manage all of your cards and points in one place. Our course is now in there for you to learn any of the basics you need to do. And we have a My Next Card feature, which looks at your existing cards and wallet and recommends the single best next card for you. Last but not least, make sure to join our Facebook group. We have over 350,000 readers coming together, sharing superlatives, asking questions, sharing destinations and trip reports. It's perhaps the single best resource online to connect with other points and miles enthusiasts and learn from them. And of course, listen to the Takeoff podcast. We'll be doing more of these episodes, continuing from our desire to create an audio course, and now just having fun and attempting to talk to Dave Ramsey. We have a lot of fun. Of course, we appreciate if you give us a review on your podcast platform of choice, but whether you do or don't, we're going to keep doing this, and I'm having a lot of fun doing it. Yeah. For all of us here at 10X Travel, this has been Takeoff, a Points and Miles podcast by 10X Travel. I'm Bryce. Travis, thank you for joining us today, and we will talk to you next time. Goodbye.